For the second time in just 2 months, the RCMP have announced that they prevented a planned terror attack against Canadians. It was a Canada Day plot to take place during celebrations in BC. Instead, police intercepted the plan and arrested 2 Canadian citizens, John Nuttall and Amanda Corrady. The RCMP say explosives were seized from the grounds around the BC legislature, but that the bombs were inert and never a threat. Police showed a photo of the alleged devices today, too. What was immediately noticeable? They were pressure cooker bombs, reminiscent of the explosives used by the Boston bombers in April. And that's not where the similarities to the Boston bombing end. The RCMP began investigating the 2 BC suspects in February, exactly when U.S. investigators said the Tsarnaev brothers began plotting their attack. The RCMP said Nuttall and Corrady were inspired by al-Qaeda. So were the Tsarnaevs, and both pairs were self-radicalized. We'll have more on self-radicalization a little later, but first, what we know about the plot and the 2 Canadians allegedly behind it. For that, we go to Kirk Williams in Vancouver tonight. Kirk.
Allison, people in Victoria were celebrating Canada Day with enthusiasm, but the RCMP says 2 people now in custody. If they had carried out their plan, the day would have been marked with carnage and death.
It couldn't get more patriotic than this. Victorians gathering on the lawn of the BC legislature to make a gigantic Canadian flag.
And I love you, baby, and I hope you have the best Canada Day you've ever had.
But behind the dancing and the kids with small flags, an act of violence was set to unfold. 3 bombs were supposed to explode.
For the purpose of causing death or serious bodily injuries on Canada Day.
And police say the people behind the plot, 2 BC residents from Surrey, Amanda Corrady in her late 20s and John Stuart Nuttall, 38. The 2 allegedly turned ordinary pressure cookers into improvised explosive devices filled with rusted nails, nuts, bolts, and washers. The same type of devices killed 3 people and wounded 170 others near the finish line at the Boston Marathon. The Canada Day suspects were inspired by what investigators call an al-Qaeda ideology.
The ideology had to do with a criminal act, wanting to pursue criminal acts on behalf of an organization that they obviously believed in.
But the RCMP says there was no indication the suspects were part of an international organization or carrying out orders from outside Canada. RCMP were tipped off about the plot by the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, and back in February began Project Souvenir, an integrated covert operation. They weren't providing many details about how that worked, but they did admit they were involved enough to allow the plot to unfold while making sure the bombs wouldn't go off.
We were able to control and ensure that the devices constructed were unable to detonate and cause harm to other individuals.
The 2 suspects were arrested in Abbotsford yesterday afternoon, and the Victoria Canada Day celebrations proceeded without a hitch. The BC Premier made a point of holding a news conference on the grounds of the legislature. Christy Clark only heard about the plot herself yesterday.
What they wanted to accomplish was more than just to harm individuals on that day. What they want to do is the same thing that terrorists want to do all over the world, and that is rob us of our sense of security, to rob us of our sense that this place belongs to us. And we cannot allow them to succeed in that.
Now, Nuttall and Corrady are each charged with 3 terrorism-related offenses. They appeared briefly in a Surrey courtroom later today, and they will be back in court while remaining in custody this time next week. Allison?
Thanks very much, Kirk. Kirk Williams in Vancouver.